Hey there, hi there, ho there YouTube. This is FNGFASHA and we are editing as can be. Today we're going to talk about green screens. Now if you're like me and you're into photography and you're into video, you're always wanting to do something kind of cool, so green screen always comes up. But if you're like me and you're broke as hell, sometimes you want to try to get something that you can do it yourself and maybe save some money and have some fun at the same time. So this is just a Google search here of green screens, and you can see some of these things. This one here is 5 foot by 7 foot for $187. This one's a huge kit for $249. This one over here is $79.95, and it's 10 by 12, but it doesn't come with a frame. So, you know, I thought I would just try to do this on my own. A lot of people like to go over here to Tube Tape, and they usually have a pretty good deal on stuff. But again, you know, if you're like me, man, when I want to do something, I want to do it, and I have just as much fun trying to make something out of nothing than I do, you know, screwing around any other way. So what we're going to do today is we're going to make our own one, and I'm going to show you how I did it. So let's go ahead and take a look at the pics I took as I started to make one of these. Okay, first step was to find the material, and this is the material here that I decided to go with. It's a 65% poly, 35% cotton blend. And when I went to the cloth store and I was asking the attendant there about this, I told him I needed something non-shiny, and I just looked around until I come up with a color that I thought was going to work for me. This particular one is a Magnolia series cloth, and if you can call your clothing store and ask them, you'll save some trips, because I called like 19 places before I actually found one. Now this was normally $3.99 a square yard, but interestingly enough, it's 45 inches wide instead of 36, so that came in handy too, and it was on sale. Instead of $3.99, it was only $3.12 a square yard. Now let me go ahead and tell you this: I did not buy all the fabric the first go round. I purchased 1 square yard as a sample. I didn't want to go spending like you know, $25, $35, $40 on something to get it home and then find out it didn't work. So if you find a fabric shop that has what you think will work, just get you 1 square yard of it and bring that home and pin it up, as you'll see right here. So I took this piece home, I made a little makeshift frame out of it, I pinned it up and behind me with a couple clamps on it, and I set up my camera and put it on timer to take a picture, and this is what we came up with. And right here we're going to move on and take a look at the picture that I used for the background. This is what I used, and then I used the chroma key, and with the chroma key we put them together and they look like that. So there you go. So that was a nice little test. It shows that the chroma key is working properly, and it shows that the material that I have is going to work with a green screen the way I want it to. Okay, here's the same thing again. We just zoomed in and got a closer pic, and then we blended it together with the chroma key, and there you go. So when you go down there to get these things, and you go in and you talk with the person working at the clothing store, ask them if they know about a green screen, if anybody's ever come in and purchased material for that. Somebody may have, they may not have, but it can save you some explaining about what you're wanting to try to do if they're familiar with what you're trying to make. Now again, this stuff's only 45 inches wide, and I went ahead and decided to get a 45-inch strip, 3 yards long, which is 9 feet, and I got 2 of those, and I figured that I would sew them together. Now don't forget thread, you gotta have thread. Now I didn't get silk thread, that was too much and it was shiny, so I went with the most non-shiny, non-reflective thread that they had, and the people at the clothing store can help you with that. Also got me a couple PVC pieces of pipe so we could make the frame out of. Once I got all this cloth home, I realized it was kind of heavy, so I decided to use a PVC frame and use 1-inch pipe to go across the top and 3/4-inch pipe on the sides to make the frame out of, and then a 3/4-inch piece across the bottom for the support frame, and I used 1-inch pieces to basically put feet on it, and we'll see that in another pic. But up here, instead of trying to put these on with clamps, I decided to fold the material over and then run a stitch through it, so it would be hanging hopefully equally and level across the top of the frame. But I wanted to make it big enough that I could slide the frame out of it as we went through there. So here you can see where I laid it over to determine about how much material I was going to need, and I figured if I had about 1 inch of material left over here to put into the machine to sew it, I would be able to get a pretty good stitch out of it. So that's what we did. Now, after wrapping the material around the PVC pipe and leaving us an inch to put some stitches into it, and then unrolling it, we realized that we needed about 7.5 inches of material in order to lay the material back over itself and then put stitches through it. So if you're going to do this yourself, if you're going to use a thicker frame, or if you're going to use a smaller frame to do basically like a loop in order to run the pipe through, make sure you measure it and measure it equal, and make sure that your corners are square too. The worst thing you want to do is to have 7.5 on one side, 7.5 on the other, and realize that the material was not square. Okay, so after we had our 7 inches, we folded it back over in half. We came up with 3.5, and this is where my wife went down it with a sewer's measuring tape, measuring stick, whatever you want to call it. So we had 3.5 inches folded over, so that was going to be our loop. So here you can see my wife, she's checking it all the way across, because remember, this thing's what, a little bit less than 9 feet long, so don't try to run all that through a sewing machine freehand. Pin it. I think we pinned ours about every 8 inches. Okay, now we've got this ready to go, and with the help of my wife Bertie, we've got our bobbins prepared. We're picking taking the thread off of the spool and putting it on the bobbin so we can put it into the bottom of the sewing machine here, and we're about ready to get sewing. Okay, I know enough about sewing to be dangerous. My wife is the sewer in the family. So what she's doing here is, as you can see, we laid the pins with the point pointed toward us or away from her as she came across, and on top of the material. So as the material was fed into the sewing machine, the points would not be on the bottom and get hang up and cause us a crazy stitch. Now I'm going to tell you something. This is a lot of material to sew. So you're going to need some help, or you're going to need to take it to a seamstress. Find an alteration shop or somewhere in your neighborhood, in your town where you live at, if you don't have the skills to run a sewing machine or have anybody that can help you. But you know, if you can look around and find somebody, it'll save you some money. Now at this point, we've got our loop across the top, and we got the loop on the top piece, and the top piece is about 9 foot long and 45 inches high. So now we got our second piece. So what we're doing now is we're basically put the top and the bottom together, so to speak. And what we decided to do here was to run them together and to put a real heavy-duty stitch in them, because again, at the top of this rack, it's going to be run through a loop and held by a PVC pipe, but down the sides it's going to be clamped on. So this stuff, I mean, it ain't like going out and picking up a 25-pound weight, but it's kind of heavy, so don't go with a single stitch here. Go with a double stitch. Okay, here's the middle. Basically folded in half with 2 edges together, and we double stitched it through there, and it's good. Props to my wife, Bertie. She is great with a sewing machine. I don't think she really realizes how talented she is, but this project could have never come together without her. Okay, so we got our 2 pieces together, so now we roughly got a piece that's oh Lord, 9 feet wide, and 45 times 45 is what is that, 90 inches long from top to bottom. You can see how far it is here. There again, we tried our best to keep this stuff off of the floor to keep it from getting dirty. I don't know how the fabric's going to act up when we go to wash it, but I don't want it to fade out. And we did our best to keep it up off the floor, and by also keeping the fabric straight and in line as you're sewing it, it keeps from binding up the material and making it difficult to feed into the machine. Or remember here, you want clean square edges, and you want to take every precaution you can to make sure that you do have those. Now once we got the loop done at the top and we looked at the frame, we realized that if the loop ran all the way from corner to corner and the pipe was going to then turn down outside of the fabric with not enough of the fabric left over to actually wrap around the frame. You're going to understand this better when we get toward the end and you see the completed project. But what we basically did was we cut out about a 4" by 5" square out of the corners of the top where the loop was, and then we decided to go ahead and fold that material over and hem it again. Remember, you want this thing square and you want it clean, and you want edges on the material to keep the material from unraveling as you use it, as you store it, as you put it away, as you wash it. If you use it outside, it gets caught in the wind. So a nice little hem on the edge helps keep the edges nice and clean and straight. Okay, and here's your first shot at the completed project. In the distance there, you'll see the right hand side front of the green screen. You can see the stitching in the middle where we put the two pieces together. You can see the feet, or an upside down T, on the floor there, and I wasn't quite done with these feet. I wasn't really satisfied with the way they were looking, so I just put some tape on it to hold it in place, and we went ahead and started using some green clamps on the side to make the material taut, because that's going to be really important here in a minute. You want this material flat as possible. If it is not flat, then you're going to get like a ripple effect on your background, and we're going to go over that in the next video we put up on how to use a green screen and use the chroma key tool inside your editing software. So this is what it looks like on the right hand side, and I think we're going to bounce over to the left hand side here in just a minute. And there we go, that's the left hand side. Now if you'll notice up there at the top in the upper left hand corner, and we're going to get a close in shot of that here in just a minute, you'll see how by cutting that square notch out of the corners of the top, it allowed us to have a nice clean top, and it allowed us enough material on the left hand side and the right hand side to wrap around the frame and hold it in place. And there you go. So this is a overall view of this thing, and as you can see, it's huge. Okay, so it's big and it works, but the PVC frame is designed to come apart, and it easily breaks down, and I've got tape holding it up there in place. And what you're going to see here is, after I studied on this for a minute, I realized I needed a support frame across the bottom to keep the feet from sliding out away from themselves and letting everything fall and hit the ground. But this thing is my God, it's so huge. But pay close attention, if you will, to those like two smiley faces, the ripples in the material there. When you're using clamps on the side, you're just going to have to adjust the clamps and pull the material taut to get rid of that. If not, it's going to affect your chroma key, and people can see that. And if you're going to do it right. Now we're going to move on to another picture here, and we're going to take a look at the foot and how the frame came together for that. As you can see down there, I just used a T-joint at the PVC, and I used 1" PVC on the bottom, about a foot on the front and a foot on the back, and then I put a cap on the end of it. Now that T is about a 1/4 inch thick in diameter, so it was actually raising the feet up off the ground by about a 1/4 inch. Now if you put tape on them, it'll hold them down flat, but I went ahead and decided to put some caps on the end of it, so if I ever wanted to fill them with sand or what have you, if I was using them outside, they would have a little bit added weight. The feet, where you're looking at there with the blue tape, again, that's 1" PVC with a 1" to 3/4 inch PVC T fitting, and the frame coming up beside the green screen is 3/4. I didn't feel like I needed 1" going up the sides and making things heavy, so if I have to carry this thing somewhere and use it and I'm by myself, I don't want to get all lugged down trying to make this thing work and just blah. Now this is the side of the frame, and you can see these clips that I have here. Now I found these at Home Depot. They were 99¢ each. They had a rubber tip on the end and a rubber handle cover, so you're not coming in directly contact with the metal. Also, the end of the clamp is sort of tapered, so it wrapped around the PVC pipe really well, but you can see the importance of having extra material here. That material there will allow you to wrap it around the PVC pipe. It will then allow you to put the clamp on and make this thing just as taut as you want. Here's another angle, and you can see that I didn't have this clamp on correctly. Had I put it on correctly, it would be more horizontal than with the handles pointed down to the ground. And there's Birdie in the background. Hey Birdie, hey! Okay, so I try to use 2 of these on each side, one about 1.5 feet from the top and the other one about 1.5 feet from the bottom. And basically you just want to grab this material and sort of wrap your hand around the material, around the pipe, and then just sort of squeeze it back like if you were working the throttle on a motorcycle. And then once you get it taut, use your other hand and put the clamp on it. Another view of the clamp here, a little smaller clamp, and as you can see, I don't quite have this thing pulled taut enough on the side, but I do have enough to cover it. And that's the important thing. You want to try to get as much of the PVC frame covered as you possibly can, because if you don't cover it and you're not zoomed in tight enough, well, of course it's going to show up in the frame. Again, those are some things we're going to talk about when actually using a green screen. This is a pic of the back side. Now you can see my loop up there at the top, and I used a 3/4 elbow down to, or a 1-inch elbow down to a 3/4, and they didn't have it in smooth pipe, so we used threaded and put a threaded cap on it to accept the 3/4 inch pipe going down the frame. But you can see how we cut that notch out at the top. Had we brought that that loop over to the edge, then there would have been nothing left of the material to wrap around this pipe and utilize a clamp. Now people, this is a do-it-yourself project. You got to be just a little bit handy to do this, or you got to have a neighbor lady or a neighbor guy who's kind of handy. And but I think if you sat down and if you showed them this video, you could probably get their help on it. And you know, again, it's not that expensive, and toward the end here I'm going to go over how much this actually cost. So now we're going to move on to the next frame, and this is a little bit zoomed in picture of the same corner but from the front. So you see the only part that we have exposed is really just that little knuckle elbow, and you can adjust your zoom on your camera, your recorder, whatever you're using, and make that just go away very, very easily. Now here's another pic of the overall project with the stool missing out of the way. We got some clamps put in there, and everything's looking really sharp. Everything's looking really good. Really, you could zoom this on in a couple more degrees, and you could make the clamps disappear and the feet disappear and the white corners disappear at the top, and you'll be good to go. Now you may see a little white spot there. That is from the flash of the camera reflecting off the glass cabinet behind that. And again, that can be a problem for you in your editing, but we're going to talk about that when we talk lighting and using a green screen. Another view of a clamp properly installed. Remember what I said about the one that was installed properly and the clamp was more vertical than horizontal. This one here is horizontal, and it's wrapped around both sides. It's got a good grip. This is on the front, so this one was used, and you could wrap that material even tighter and make it even more taut. As you can see right there, you can see the seam of where we sewed them both together, and it was a perfect seam. This is standing behind the green screen looking at the feet and the bottom support rail that I put in. So you can see there how sort of it looks, but again, you want enough material at the bottom, just like on the sides, to wrap up and make taut, because if you don't have this thing taut like a drum on all 4 sides, you're going to get a ripple effect in your green screen, which is going to affect the quality of your video or your photo. This is a view of the bottom support rail, and you can see how we utilized a clamp again, and it's got the material nice and taut. Now you'll notice a couple of wrinkles in there. Some of these ones that you buy claim they're wrinkle free, what have you, but we'll talk about that and storing them in the next video. But again, another picture and another clamp, and how to utilize these clamps and making this thing tight. Another view here of the foot, and what you can't see is the bottom support rail that the clamp is holding, but I wanted you to see this because of the amount of material that I had left over on the side to wrap around that. Again, I cannot stress how important it is for this frame to be a couple inches smaller than the material you're using, so you have enough material to wrap around it. If you didn't pick up on what I was talking about with the wrinkles, look right here inside the red frame and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Just adjust your clamps to make those go away. And another frame showing you the little ripples in the material on the right hand side. Again, just use your clamps. These things will go away. It's not hard to make them disappear. So here's a zoomed in pic with a camera, and we've gotten rid of the any of the white, any of the feet, any of the frames, any of the clamps, and that is what we would use to use our chroma key with and make beautiful pictures. So there you have it, how to make your own green screen. Now I know the question that's on all of your minds is, how much did this cost? Well, if memory serves me correctly, I had about $30 in material and thread. I had about $15, maybe $17 in PVC pipe, and then figure another $6 or $7 for some clamps. So yeah, that was it. I hope you liked this video. I hope it works for you. If you have any questions about it, by all means, please give me a call. And you guys take care, and we'll see you in the next video. As always, this is FNGFASHA, and I appreciate you watching my video. Please give it a good rating. Please share it with those people out there that you hang out with that are in photography or video or what have you. And if I can ever answer any questions for you, please post them under the video. That's the best way to do it, because it allows other people to come through and scroll through, and they might have the same same question you do. But by all means, I do try to answer all my videos, and if I can ever do any help for you or answer any of those questions, please jump on there. Subscribe, rate, share. Y'all take care. See ya.